Chief Rabbi, Your Excellencies, my lords, ladies, and gentlemen, the Conservative Party's unwavering support for Israel exists because of what you have built. CFI goes from strength to strength under the stewardship of Adam Kamen, Julia Beckor, and of course, Lord Polak. Thank you. And to my friend, Her Excellency, Ambassador Tzipi Hotovely, I cannot think of a more difficult time to have been Israel's representative in the UK. As you see out your term this summer, I think all of us will agree that your successor has a tough act to follow. You've handled the role with dignity, strength, and grace under fire. I have watched with admiration as you stood tall in the face of abuse, distortion, and outright hate. Israel and the UK is lucky to have you, Tzipi. So last week, I posted a picture of Tzipi and I at the 77th birthday celebrations. And then I got an email from someone asking how I could possibly support Israel. It wasn't the most polite email I'd ever received, but it's one of the easiest questions for me to answer. Why do I support Israel? It's because I know what the alternative looks like. I was lucky to be born here, but I grew up under a military dictatorship, a country that was still recovering from a civil war that tore it apart. In Nigeria, that conflict left more than 1 million dead, mostly through starvation. It changed everything. It changed if people trusted their neighbors, how the state viewed its citizens, how whole regions were left behind for generations. And in the north of the country, variations of Islamist groups terrorized and slaughtered Muslim and Christian groups alike. 11 years ago, they stole over 300 schoolgirls, hundreds of them never to be seen again. So I recognize the evil of those who kidnap children, who steal loved ones so they can torture their relatives and family members every single day with the hope and the fear of ever seeing them again. It is not just Hamas that does this. Growing up in that shadow, you learn the real value of peace. You understand what freedom really means because you've seen what happens when it's taken away. And you realize that peace is not something you inherit, it is something you fight to keep. Israel is not just a country. It is the return of a people to their homeland after centuries of exile, persecution, and genocide. It is a modern state built on ancient hope, a people who refuse to give in to fear. That story matters, and that is why I am proud to be a conservative friend of Israel. I've been proud to help the last Conservative government deliver the strongest UK-Israel relationship in our history. Not through warm words, but through real action. I was last in Israel 2 years ago, launching negotiations for the free trade agreement. And when I visited Tel Aviv, I saw a country built on innovation, a startup powerhouse that fuels our tech sector and supplies life-saving medicine to our NHS. And in Jerusalem, I saw a proud, diverse nation with freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Was it perfect? No, it was not perfect. Did it have difficulties? Yes, it did. But it also had a dominant, shared culture that brought people together based on what they had in common, not what divided them. And let's be honest, these are not universal values. They are Israeli values, they are British values, and they are conservative values, and that is why the Conservative Party will always stand up for them. A lot has changed in 2 years. The national picture has changed, the parliamentary picture has changed, and not for the better. Labour isn't just walking back the progress we made, Their MPs are actively aligning the UK against our democratic ally. Worse than that, we now have 5 new MPs elected on openly sectarian platforms. You listen to some of the statements they make in Parliament, and you realize it's not really about Gaza. It's not about policy. It's not about borders. It is the rejection of Israel's right to exist, and it must be fought. Since the 7th of October, I have spoken with survivors, first responders, and witnesses to horror. Women raped, children murdered, babies burned. Acts so barbaric, they stunned the world, at least for a moment. And yet the UN was slow to act. Many in the West still refuse to even acknowledge what happened. With CFI's help, I met the mother of Emily Damari, who was kidnapped and taken to Gaza. As a mother of 3, it broke me to hear her story. But it also meant I could imagine the sheer joy, the sheer relief she must have felt when Emily finally came home. There are still 58 hostages waiting to come home. And while Israel is fighting Hamas in Gaza, it's also facing Hezbollah in the north, the Houthis in the Red Sea, and Iran looming everywhere, even here in London. This is not just Israel's war, it is ours too. So we have to ask ourselves, knowing that all this, why has Labour suspended arms exports to Israel? Why have they restored funding to UNRWA, who helped harbour hostages? Why have they reversed our position at the International Criminal Court? It is because they lack moral courage. They bow to the mob, they pander to the hate we've seen too often on our streets, marches past synagogues, anti-Semitic chants, and violent placards met with silence, as those with authority pretend that they don't know the difference between intimidation and freedom of expression. We don't have to be afraid all the time. When I was in cabinet, I faced these same pressures. Trade union officials threatened to strike unless I stopped flying the Israeli flag the day after October 7th. There were endless protests trying to stop the FTA, to stop export licenses. Protesters stormed our buildings, staff were assaulted. But I stood firm because politics means nothing without moral courage. Labour, on the other hand, they crumble at the first sign of trouble. Just look at NECAP, a band that supports Hamas and wants to dismantle the United Kingdom. I refuse to give them taxpayers' money. Labour got in and handed it over. This is the reality of Parliament today. Politically, the Conservative Party is the last line of defence. No other party cares. No other party will do what we do. That is why CFI matters more than ever. And that is why I want to thank each and every Conservative MP standing up to the smears and the misinformation that Israel faces daily. Israel, you are not alone. We stand with you. And we must keep standing up. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, it's very unpopular in some quarters, but it is the right thing to do. And I will say this clearly for those who want to distort my message. We want peace for Israelis and Palestinians. Palestinians in Gaza deserve to live a better life than under the tyranny of Hamas. But there must be no reward for terror. No bypassing the hard road of negotiation. October 7th wasn't just a tragedy, it was a massacre. The worst slaughter of Jews in a single day since the Holocaust. It was terrorism, not resistance. And what followed in the West was shameful. Those anti-Semitic incidents exploding in the streets, in synagogues, on campuses. We have seen people in this country try to hide their anti-Semitism, their anti-Semitic views as anti-Zionism. They're not fooling anyone. Ripping down posters of missing children and other hostages is not anti-Zionism. The idea that Jews and only Jews are not entitled to a homeland is anti-Semitic. It is racism, full stop. It is galling to hear the same voices shouting about decolonization while attacking the one state built by a people returning home. We are watching the growth of an unholy alliance between the hard left and Islamist extremists, both united by one goal: the destruction of Israel and the dismantling of our values. They cheer Hamas, they justify murder, and they are gaining ground. Let's be honest. Islamist terrorism deserves absolutely no respect, no explanation, no nuance, no context, no nothing. It's terrorism, nothing more, nothing less, and we should reject it entirely. So to those who ask me, why do you support Israel? I say, this is not just about Israel. The attack on Israel is part of a broader assault on Western values, an assault on free, democratic countries by an axis of authoritarian states against Israel, against Ukraine, and against our own institutions. Israel is at the front line in the fight for the West. Their fight is our fight. Thank you.